This is another situation of using the exact same general tactics in vilifying another foreign government's leader and trying to stage a coup and do regime change. So a lot of this stems from when the embassy officials, the Maduro ambassadors, were asked to leave Washington, D.C. They left their embassy vacant, but they invited American activists who were fighting on behalf of the Maduro government to occupy the embassy, because the Juan Guaido government is not a legitimate government. And if they try to put ambassadors and officials in that government, it will be a shadow government. It would be a place for this coup to operate out of. So this was a way to protect the embassy, and it was called the Embassy Protection Collective. During the course of that occupation, which is now over, everyone's been arrested. They were actually released from jail just today, maybe yesterday. That was on my Twitter timeline. But here is an interesting article you'll see in the description. This is from Mint Press News. It's also on the Gray Zone Project, where they outlined who are the counter protesters. So who were the people that were outside the embassy who were, loudly protesting, how dare these people occupy this embassy in protection of the Maduro government? And there's a long list of people, and it tells you exactly what the motivations are for that opposition, the pro-Guaido opposition protesters outside DC. So here's it became clear as the sort of groups were building that it's a very right-wing, very nationalistic, homophobic mob throwing slurs at people, and basically PR representatives for the movement came down to settle things down. So one of these people was a spokesperson named Delana Bustios, who goes by other names online. She's a senior member at Oracle, previously worked at Market Bridge, and she previously volunteered at Vision Democratica, a pro-opposition Venezuelan lobbying outfit in D.C. that claims to focus on democracy promotion, which is code for regime change. Another guy, Francisco Marquez, the executive director for that group, Vision Democratica, and a fellow at Democracy in Hard Places initiative at Harvard's Ash School for Democratic Governance and Innovation, has held meetings with Mike Pence, who's a key figure in the pro-coup Venezuelan lobby in Washington, D.C. Carlos Figueroa, who attended a recent Center for Strategic and International Studies, or CSIS, meeting in Washington on the potential for a military invasion in Venezuela. In her media interviews, Bustios, so that's the spokesperson, never reveals her top-level corporate marketing position nor her support for political groups that advocate for sanctions and U.S. interventionism. Rather, she has presented herself as just another concerned Venezuelan citizen with nothing special to gain and no agenda beyond saving her country from the evildoers. This is the kind of thing she does. She claims that she is not for U.S. interventionism, but on her Twitter timeline, it reveals that she not only openly advocates for U.S. sanctions, but also advocates for military interventionism as well. So she's just lying through her teeth there. This is a great article. There are a number of other people in here. I'm not going to go through every single one of them, but basically every person in this list has high-level corporate or financial ties. Ties to this is an interesting one. Alejandro Barrios, a former employee of the World Bank and currently a senior manager at the International Finance Corporation, which is a member of the World Bank Group, has taken part in the embassy siege. Carlos Alaya, a marketing strategist for the Inter-American Development Bank. These are wealthy, well-connected, high-end people in areas of finance, in areas of oil production. This guy is Emerson Hevia, is a senior principal architect for the arms manufacturer Raytheon. These are the people who are like, we need to protect the people of Venezuela. Ask a real Venezuelan is their little hashtag that they've put together, that they've tried to sort of make a media narrative. And this is a fantastic article. It's complex, but it goes into great detail about how this is all PR. This is all marketing firms, because if you start telling people the real reason you're for regime change, the real reason that you don't want the legitimate leader of that government to no longer be the legitimate leader of that government, the reason you want access to this embassy so that you can begin operating your shadow government, is not because some Venezuelan citizens are having trouble renewing their passport. That's not why. You want to overthrow the legitimately elected government of that country for oil prices. That's what you want. And you want to make people feel like, oh, well, this is we're fighting for the people of Venezuela. And it's like, yeah, but the people here in America advocating for that are not the people on the ground in Venezuela. They're the wealthy elites of Venezuela who are operating out of places like Harvard Business School, the World Bank, Raytheon, and they're telling you, we need to get that Maduro guy out because we want our favorable government in so we can get our favorable business deals so that we can get our oil out of that country and the people of the nation be damned.
You know, I like that hashtag where it says ask a real Venezuelan. Well, are we going to ask them about, let's go ahead and ask a real Venezuelan about what's happening in their country. Let's talk to them about how the U.S. sanctions are impacting their government and their economy. Let's talk about how the fact that right now the United States, as it currently stands, is backing someone who didn't even run in the presidential election of Venezuela. Let's actually talk about really why we're interfering with a local problem that the people of Venezuela will need to solve. Look, is any government perfect? No. But if there's a problem with said government, then the people of that said country should be the ones to solve it, not have another foreign power dictate to them how and who should be in office of president or who should be their country's leader. I mean, it's stupid. And again, the United States taxpayer is going to be paying for this. And the only real reason why we're involved in Venezuela is because they have much more larger oil fields. In fact, their oil fields eclipse Saudi Arabia. And I think really, at the end of the day, it's blood for oil.
Yeah, and let's go into a little more than that. So obviously Citgo is a Venezuelan asset, so it makes a lot of money for them. Now what the US doesn't mention in all of this is that we have coordinated with Saudi Arabia going against what's the organization that controls oil prices?
OPEC.
Yeah, that's the one.
So OPEC says you're not allowed to do these sorts of charges for oil, and we've said we don't care about that. We're going to have Saudi Arabia overproduce the oil like crazy because both Iran and Venezuela, who have very large reserves that aren't in line with us because they aren't giving us the price that we want, because they want to do it to use those proceeds to help their own citizens and other things as well. That's an issue for us if they're not giving us the right price at the right time when we want it. So what do we get? Well, we're getting a situation just like Paul laid out, where the people who are pushing all the effort to talk about in the media news aren't Venezuelan people. They're profiteers that happen to have Venezuelan heritage. The tweeting shouldn't be talk to a real Venezuelan. It should be talk to a real profiteering person who has some Venezuelan heritage. It might be a little long for Twitter, but it sums it up a little better.
Talk to a war profiteer.
Talk to a war profiteer. There you go. That's it. That's much catchier. So right now we have a situation where Venezuela has oil. We don't care about the citizenry. We know that the U.S. doesn't care about humanitarian issues unless it wants to invade a country, which all of a sudden, oh my God, it's a big deal. But when we help another country overproduce oil, which then tanks the country's economy, and then go, what happened to their economy? Must have been mismanaged. Many economies are mismanaged. The U.S. economy is terribly mismanaged. That's not a reason beyond a sentence. What we're dealing with, again, what Paul said is so right, is these are special people that have a lot of wealth, a lot of connections, and a lot to gain personally from killing their countrymen.
And there's another thing too we need to take away, is that is, if there is war, if there's a civil war in Venezuela, there's going to be a humanitarian disaster the likes of which we haven't seen in the Western Hemisphere for a very long time. And you want to know what happens with wars, especially civil wars? There's going to be a mass exodus of people trying to look for safer lands to live in. Refugees. It's the same thing like with the war in Iran. If there's war in Iran, there's going to be a mass exodus of people leaving Iran, and there's going to be a refugee crisis. And we, as this proud bastion of liberty and freedom, we're always supposed to talk about human rights and humanity and, diplomacy, and, governments should be treating their people with respect. But at the end of the day, if we go through with this, especially in Venezuela, we will be seeing and paying for this cost of war for generations to come. And is that something the American taxpayer, Democratic voters, Republican voters, independent voters, is this something you want your legislative leaders to give their thumbs up on? Do you really want to pay for another humanitarian crisis in our own backyard? I don't think so.
I'd like us to keep a record of the names that are on that list and see if we decide to topple Venezuela, if those same people perhaps are against immigration and the irony that would entail.
Or if they end up taking positions within the new government, if the coup is successful.
Right.
Let's find out.
Somebody who isn't mentioned in this article that I think is worth talking about because it drives this exact same point home is Joanna Hausman, who's been a major PR advocate for regime change in Venezuela, and why the sanctions are important and why Juan Guaido should be the legitimate leader. And she was somebody who would definitely be, she's a Venezuelan. She would fit into this Ask a Venezuelan thing. And there have been a number of debunking videos of Joanna Hausman. If you haven't seen any of them or haven't heard this name or haven't looked into it, you can see her videos, and she makes a case for like, we should overthrow Maduro because he's bad and stuff. And then never mentions the fact that her father sits on one of these political think tank boards at Harvard and is a Harvard professor who is previously a member of the former administration in the pre-98 government of Venezuela. Like literally is an economist who formerly worked for the old government and openly advocates for overthrowing the Bolivarian government. So was in favor of overthrowing Chavez and is now in favor of overthrowing Maduro and has been vocal about it for decades. The daughter of that guy is the one telling us you should talk to real Venezuelans. The daughter of the son of a person in the former administration who certainly doesn't have anything to gain from overthrowing the current government.
Just a lot of money, riches, and power. Nothing much.
Yeah. Hey, did you like that video? Hit the subscribe button, hit that thumbs up icon, and also hit that ring bell notification so that way you guys know when we have more content up on the Hardlens Media YouTube channel. But Paul, what else can people do to help us out?
Keep watching.